Hi, I've just finished my Friday night movie for this week, The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, extended edition. Um, I hadn't seen it before. I hadn't seen the second or third Hobbit films before. I saw the first film when it was released. I think it may have been opening night, and I thought, I'll go for it. I'll do the 3D. I'll do the high frame rate thing. Now, it may not surprise you to know, I can't see 3D properly, um, but I could kind of tell that there was something going on, and I could see the high frame rate thing, and it looked terrible. It looked like the BBC version of the Chronicles of Narnia from the late 80s, which is not a knock on those, but they were working on a very, very tight budget, and this was a $100 million Peter Jackson movie. And the pace was slow, I wasn't really involved, and I thought, wow, this is a real misfire. So I didn't bother watching any of the sequels. And I've now finally got round to watching all three, and I'm going to be watching the extended editions of Lord of the Rings, which I've never seen before. I haven't seen the films since they were released. So I'm going to kind of make this about the Hobbit trilogy as a whole. It's fine. It's fine. But that's not good enough. Because the Lord of the Rings movies are so good, the first one I was a little bit shaky on, but Two Towers and Return of the King I loved. And I tried reading the book, couldn't get through it, so I've never touched any Tolkien since then. I've read Fellowship of the Ring, hated it. And The Hobbit it's the work of someone who knows exactly what they're doing, knows exactly how to make this work as a movie, but has absolutely no passion or love of the material, and it really shows that Lord of the Rings was Peter Jackson doing the thing that he believed he was always meant to do, to make this giant film, to do this perfect thing. And The Hobbit he arrives at the studio at 9 a.m. and he punches the clock, and he does a full day's work, and he punches out at 5 o'clock. And he does that for however long it took to make these three movies, because they are perfectly well made, apart from some of the effects that look a little bit shonky. But it's made with no love, with no passion. It's almost like Alex Kurtzman made these, except he's incompetent. So they're not great, and I enjoyed the first film, An Unexpected Journey, more than I did in the cinema. I think it benefits from having a bit more time. I think it benefits from not having the expectations that I had when I went to see it the first time, and getting rid of the high frame rate, which just doesn't work. High frame rate is a scam. When they tell you it's great, don't believe them. And the same with 3D. I've only seen two films where 3D actually worked, and that was Gravity. Everyone knows 3D works in that. And the Werner Herzog documentary, Cave of Forgotten Dreams. If you get a chance to see either of those in 3D, take it, because they are made to work in 3D. No other film I've seen in 3D works like that, except, ironically, The Adventures of Tintin, which was produced by Peter Jackson, which has a chase scene that's done entirely in one shot, as characters race through a town. It's done all entirely in one shot, and the 3D works because you get a sense of space, and there are no edits, and the camera moves very smoothly, replicating the way the human brain sees the world, rather than editing and fast camera movement, which so many films that are released in 3D do, and it doesn't work. It's a scam. And don't get me started on Adam Sandler. But the characterization in The Hobbit, it's kind of perfunctory. The book is a children's book. I haven't read it. But the characterization is so simple and so straightforward. It feels too weak. It's very obvious that lots of bits and bobs have been added in to pad the movies out to be 3 2.5 hour movies. third movie in particular, the whole love story between Kili the dwarf and Toriel the elf feels completely tacked on, and it just comes out of nowhere. It doesn't really make any sense. It just feels like padding. And these films are very artfully padded. You know, it's like a master tailor, having to fill out this suit of clothes that he's made because his client is too thin. That's exactly what it's like. It's made by a person who knows what they're doing, but they really don't want to be doing it. So it's, yeah, they're fine. I mean, they're not bad, but they shouldn't be just not bad. They ought to be good, like proper movies, and not a very obvious studio cash-in that the director stepped in to make because the original director got fed up with waiting around for one of the studios to come out of bankruptcy, which is what happened. Guillermo del Toro was supposed to direct the three movies originally. They would have looked probably completely different. And they would at least have been individual. They might have been interesting. They might have felt more like movies made by someone who really cared about the material. But all that Jackson really cares about is not screwing it up. He's concerned about doing a good job, which, good, that's a good start. But that's kind of it. So, would I recommend it? Well, if you enjoy The Lord of the Rings, you could do worse. I haven't seen the theatrical cuts of the second and third Hobbit films, so I don't know what they're like. Apparently the Battle of the Five Armies is not very good in the theatrical cut. And I thought the extended cut was fine. It looks like a movie, or the third part of a movie, which is what it was always supposed to be, so that's okay. But, this is not good enough. And Jackson hasn't made a film since then. And I think he's just sitting quietly, hoping for the muse to get hold of him again so that he is able to summon up the energy and the passion to do something that he really wants to do. And, Peter, just keep waiting until you feel it. Because if this is you coasting, it looks